Go Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yalmina Revolution, and we got late night revolutionary classes. Late night revolutionary classes. But before we get into these classes, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Let everybody know Co-Figure is live. I'm the hardest working revolutionary in the business. Had a long day, but still have to handle my obligations to y'all and to bring this profound information. So I hope y'all respect this. Let's get into exactly what's happening with this new storm. And let's look back at Hurricane Helene or Helene or whatever they call that hurricane. What exactly is going on here? And is it true that Kamala's husband has something to do with the lithium business? I don't know.
So as you all probably know by now, there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there about Hurricane Helene. And although at first glance, most of us would be tempted to just look the other way, but once you look at the circumstances that perfectly fell into place, combined with the special interests that benefited from the disaster that's been caused by Hurricane Helene, it's starting to look too much like a perfect storm, and we got to double back and look at some things. Now, first, let me start by saying we can only confirm the facts as we know them to be true. We don't know anything for certain, but the facts. So we're just going to review those, and I'll let you draw your own conclusions. First of all, if you're from North Carolina, I actually don't need to be the one to tell you that hurricanes rarely hit Western North Carolina in the way that we've seen Hurricane Helene hit Western North Carolina. And actually, in the strictest sense, no hurricane in the history of North Carolina has hit Western North Carolina, the areas most affected, like we have seen Hurricane Helene hit. Hell, if we just do a compare and contrast between Katrina and Helene, Helene dwarfs Katrina in max winds, diameter, and wind field. And what also makes Helene unique is the fact that for the first time, maybe ever, the weatherman actually perfectly predicted the trajectory of the hurricane without any fault whatsoever. That almost never happens, guys. And I feel like it's important that we talk about the significance of that. Most of the time, atmospheric scientists attempt to predict the direction of a hurricane, but oftentimes it is too difficult because once that hurricane touches land, there are significant atmospheric circumstances that can alter the trajectory of the hurricane, or even stop the hurricane in its tracks altogether. Not to get too much into the weeds, but something like entrainment can happen, for example, where dry air can converge into the storm clouds and prevent precipitation production, which obviously would slow down or even stop a hurricane. Or another storm system can come into play, changing the trajectory of the hurricane as well. Or a hurricane can be so strong, so ferocious, that the eye of
my brother in the audience, salute to our revolutionary brother out of abundance for the donation to the war chest. To the war chest. Revolution is the way of life, and I absolutely appreciate the donation. That's why I come and do my job, because y'all goddamn show me love and support me. Be sure to wipe y'all feet. That means a lot too. Salute.
The storm collapses in on itself and it slows the velocity down, which could obviously change its trajectory or slow it down. But either way, this is once again something normal that we can expect to see in most hurricanes. So I'm mentioning all this to say, for atmospheric science,
my people in Florida, y'all get safe. These demons is playing weather manipulation games.
To perfectly predict the trajectory of a hurricane requires a set of perfect circumstances that we almost never see. And for those circumstances to align so perfectly, while simultaneously our government is completely unprepared, despite the fact that we predicted it accurately and used data from Katrina to predict this hurricane, made me a little bit suspicious, guys. So I had to start doing some digging. And it turns out that Western North Carolina, the part of North Carolina that never gets devastated by hurricanes, is embroiled in a huge battle over lithium mining. It has been since 2021, like in Gaston County.
Now, I'm seeing people on TikTok, but I'm trying to get the videos so I can bring them over to YouTube. If anybody had those videos, send them to me. That Kamala Harris' husband Doug Emhoff, or whatever that small head name is, he has a bunch of investments in lithium. He's one of the. I don't know if those TikTok videos are true. That's why I haven't brought to the platform. I'm trying to study it and get more. That he's one of the biggest investors, into some lithium dealings. But we do know that it's true. The plans that they have for that area for lithium, they need lithium. Lithium has everything to do with these electric cars.
One of the affected areas where Piedmont Lithium is trying to mine more lithium. But as you can see here in 2021, the North Carolina County slapped a moratorium on the mining for the lithium in the area because it turns out the county commissioner said that the company cannot be trusted without adequate local controls to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. Oh, by the way, probably random and you don't have to worry about it, but BlackRock is the lead institutional shareholder for Piedmont Lithium, with Vanguard in second place. We're just going to leave that there. Not only has Gadsden County been embroiled in this issue over mining the lithium in the area, but the DOD in 2023 made a deal with Albemarle Lithium Company to do the same thing. And Albemarle's deal is to do this in Kings Mountain between 2025 and 2030. Also, probably just a coincidence again, but
revolutionary salute to our family. Ash for the donation to the War Chest Revolution of the Way of Life. I absolutely appreciate the donation, family. Salute to you.
Vanguard is a leading institutional shareholder for Albemarle Corporation, with BlackRock in third. Coincidences are starting to add up, aren't they? What makes this even more suspect is that somebody discovered that there is a patent on a machine from 2003 that can use sound waves to steer weather systems. Now, we don't know for a fact that it was used, but if it was used, it would probably make the floods look a little something like this. I don't know, just saying. So with that information in mind, it's important that you understand that these people were not just against the lithium mines being built because of the environment. Piedmont was calling for the demolishing of their homes, digging up of farm fields and woods, and disrupting streams of water. So to be clear, are any of you about to volunteer to have your home destroyed for a lithium mine? Probably not. But you know what can help solve that problem? I don't know, maybe a hurricane as strong as Katrina arriving to your town for the first time in your lifetime when it never has happened before, and I don't know, destroying all the homes that these lithium companies wanted to destroy in order to mine this lithium. On top of all that, conveniently enough, the pressure from the hurricane relief efforts and the government forced the port workers who were on strike to end their strike after just 2 days. And of course, Biden and the Democrats are already taking credit for it. And because of those pressures, those workers who are on strike took a 15% hit in negotiations for projected wage increases over the next 6 years. And it's important to know that this port strike was already going to be a massive problem for the U.S. economy. So it is mighty convenient that this port strike is now forced to end because of this hurricane, even though it's already been put out there that FEMA misappropriated funds. And so the supply chain regarding the strike with the port workers wouldn't be more or less affected if FEMA isn't paying for the supplies to arrive at the affected areas anyway. So given the lithium mining, given the fact that BlackRock and Vanguard are involved, given the fact that the DOD, the Department of Defense, is officially involved, given the fact that there are weather manipulation patents out there, and given the fact that Western North Carolina specifically was hit with a weather system unlike something they've never seen before, at the most convenient time for all of these special interests, how can anyone paying attention be like, yeah, this is totally all on the up and up, and it's just a super weird amount of perfect coincidences aligning? I can't tell you what happened exactly. I just know something ain't right here.
Salute, family. Now let's go back to the previous hurricane before we look at what they're doing with Milton.
We really have to get into this because what was NASA doing in the location of Asheville, North Carolina? But before we do get into this, I do want to say more than likely this will be my last video for the week unless I make another video today, and that is due to Hurricane Milton targeting the location that I reside in. Normally I would stick it out, rough it out, but I do have a family to think about, and anybody else that will be affected by this hurricane, my thoughts are with you. I do wish you well. But if you are well informed, if you are well prepared, we will all make it out of this okay. I do know I promote a lot of fear on this channel. I'm known as a fear monger. But again, as long as we're well prepared, we will all be okay. Going back to the video, I'm a big fan of a certain individual on TikTok who goes by @Glamham Radio. She has such amazing content, which I do check out quite often. And I think she has a YouTube channel as well. But just recently, she noticed something rather interesting with NASA and North Carolina. What Glamham is referring to is that NASA owns a Lockheed Martin aircraft called the P-3 Orion. They only have one of this aircraft, so it's very easy to track. She also wants to make it known that even though NASA owns this aircraft, any agency, any organization can actually rent this aircraft out. So if this aircraft is seen doing something unusual, it might not be NASA who is piloting this aircraft. This P-3 Orion aircraft was seen doing something rather interesting on September 9th, 2024 on a website called FlightAware. So anybody can look this up. You can go to flightaware.com and put in the name of the aircraft, which happens to be NASA 426, and it will bring up September 9th, and it will track the location of this flight, which it was seen making a triangular shape between North Carolina and Virginia. This triangular shape or this flight path had been seen mainly over West North Carolina. You know, those cities like Asheville that were impacted the hardest by Hurricane Helene. Now, I am not saying that NASA or any other organization is doing anything shady here, and that's for YouTube purposes only. I'm just saying this is rather odd. And there are a lot of people that are saying that Hurricane Helene is not a natural hurricane. So what is going on here? Why is the P-3 Orion making a perfect triangle right over Asheville? And like I said, the other cities right next to Asheville that were hit the hardest by Hurricane Helene. Well, what is the P-3 Orion? Well, come to find out, the P-3 Orion was the aircraft that was used during Project Storm Fury. Project Storm Fury was a joint effort between Commerce and the Defense Department, the government, to reduce the intensity of hurricanes through cloud seeding, basically manipulating and modifying hurricanes. So the goal of Project Storm Fury was to reduce the strength of hurricane winds by seeding the storm's outer rain bands with silver iodide. This would increase the diameter of the storm's eye and weaken the winds. So basically, the government was being the good guy here to try to weaken hurricanes so there was not a lot of damage and a lot of people would not lose their lives. So essentially, the government was looking out for the public and their best interest. They were not lying. They were not doing anything shady here, even though this was taking place during the 60s and 70s when Project MK Ultra was at its height. You know, that project that the CIA declassified, where they said that the government was taking members of the public, filling them up with drugs like LSD, putting them through horrific abuse to get them to mentally crack so they can carry out specific tasks. Well, it is what it is. What are you going to do? But anyway, the P-3 Orion is just that. It is meant for cloud seeding and other scientific research. So the question that a lot of people seemingly have is that, how did Hurricane Helene move so fast? And also, how did Hurricane Helene go inland to Western North Carolina and cause so much damage the way it did? Reading this article here, which was published on October 6, 2024, titled, "The Power of Water, How Helene Devastated Western North Carolina and Left Communities in Ruins." It says, 4 days before Helene made landfall in Florida, before it even intensified into a hurricane, the National Weather Service in North Carolina warned of an historic combination of heavy rain, life-threatening flooding, and catastrophic landslides along the mountains. So before Hurricane Helene had targeted North Carolina, cities like Asheville and cities around Asheville we're already dealing with historic rainfall, intense rainfall. And I just wonder if there was an aircraft that was designed for a cloud seeding and other scientific research in the area of Asheville in September. Well, there is the P3 Orion that is designed for cloud seeding, but that could just be one big coincidence. You all know by now how I feel about coincidences on this channel, but you really have to wonder what that P3 Orion aircraft that is known for cloud seeding was doing over the locations of Asheville, and again, those cities that surround Asheville that were hit the hardest by Hurricane Helene. It wouldn't be doing anything sinister to the climate over there, would it? But in any case, I do want to hear from you. Please do comment in the comment section below. What do you think this P3 Orion was doing? If you have any further information, please.
Something strange is happening to the weather. If you believe the mainstream media, it's because of climate change, and any talk of weather manipulation or cloud seeding is nothing but a right-wing conspiracy theory. But how true is that? What I'm about to show you proves everything. You see, I'm about to show you a video I made all the way back in November of 2016. I took it off my channel because, well, frankly, it's pretty amateur and the voiceover is pretty terrible. However, given the current events that are taking place right now involving weather, I think it's very important and you should definitely see this. I thought it was more fitting to show you the original video I made back then rather than make a new one because it just shows how long they've been doing this. You can look in the description for a link to this exact website.
The Jordanian government has collaborated with German rainfall technology company WeatherTech. The company has built 4 cloud ionization towers in Jordan to emit icons into the atmosphere to encourage rainfall. Between May and July, the company induced rainfall 5 times, and this could almost double by the end of the year. The technology relies on several factors such as humidity and wind to work properly. And experts believe under the right conditions, rainfall could fully be restored in Jordan.
So there you have it, right out of the horse's mouth. They can and do control the weather. Now think about this for a second. If this is what they are openly advertising, what do you think they have tucked away, hidden from the prying eyes of the public? Take this technology and combine it with CERN, HARP, AI, and the new quantum computing network, and what you have is a complete control over the earth. What they are trying to do is usurp the authority of God by claiming this new earth, the one they created, is not his creation anymore. It was hijacked and modified and turned into something else. After watching this clip, it made me curious. Who is this WeatherTech and what are they actually doing? So I went to their website and what I found shocked me. Let's go over it together. First thing I noticed when going to their website was their logo. And you can see it right there, clear as day. WeatherTech with the as above, so below symbolism. They have the rainbow on the top and the solid line on the bottom. This was not by accident. What we see here on the main page, environmental friendly rainfall enhancement. Think rain. WeatherTech, ionization technology, most advanced technology to enhance precipitation. WeatherTech ionization technology enhances rainfall in semi-arid regions, covering thousands of kilometers. The ionization increases natural rainfall development by mimicking the sun's ionization, and it's completely environmental friendly without generating any waste products. Ionization enhances the effect of the sun. The ionization technology is based on charging aerosols in the atmosphere with the 3rd generation WeatherTech emitter stations at the ground. The aerosols carry negative charges to the clouds, which enhance condensation processes and growth of water particles, e.g., liquid drops and ice structures, by triggering the natural microphysical processes in the clouds. When entering this influenced area, rain cells grow in size, strengthen rainfall intensity, and extend lifespan. WeatherTech experts have gathered many years of experience to control this process in over 150 rainfall enhancement cases on 3 continents, where they increased the amount of precipitation. So in the last paragraph here, we see what they're trying to do is tell us that this technology is not to be feared. Oh, we need to embrace this. It's not harmful. Everything will be fine. We just have to embrace the change. Yeah, right. Okay, let's see what they have to say about this. Negative ions are employed in hospitals and offices by numerous ionizers to create a better health or work environment. Furthermore, no chemicals are used or waste products left afterwards like other rainfall enhancement technologies, i.e. cloud seeding by planes. They're just admitting here, i.e. cloud seeding by planes, the chemtrails are real. Let's move on. Experts believe that this is by far the largest source for additional fresh water on Earth, and has been defined by the Munich Security Conference as black swan technology. Right out of the horse's mouth again, black swan technology. All right. They're going to tell us the right solution at the right time with global impact for an imminent problem. So we have an imminent problem right now, and that imminent problem is we don't have enough rain, right? So we need this company to ionize our atmosphere and give us rain, right? No. All right. So in this diagram here, they're trying to show us how it works. And it's pretty interesting if you think about it, because what are they doing here? What do you see? Well, they're taking poles and putting pyramid structures on the top and shooting electricity through these pyramid structures into our atmosphere. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. They're literally using pyramids to shoot electricity in the atmosphere to make clouds. All right, so let's go over this diagram together. So, and you can see the number 1 right there. You have dust particles that lay dormant. You have the sun, and then you have high voltage electrical power. High voltage is provided to the emitters on the ground, requiring solar power. Okay, so apparently they have solar power, or they probably are hooked up to the grid. They're just not telling us about it. All right, and you go over right there to number 2. You can see the pyramid structure with the pole, and then you have a reverse pyramid underground, as above, so below. It looks like it's the cables that are holding up the pole form another pyramid, right? So what this does is takes the positive ions that are in the ground naturally, charges them, and shoots them through the pyramid into the sky. This is not made up. This is exactly, it seems fake, but they're actually doing this, guys. Okay, so number 2, it says, they emit trillions of ions into the atmosphere that connect to aerosols. Ooh, so there's charged aerosols in the sky. Where do these aerosols come from? Are they natural, or are they placed there? Okay, this is getting very suspicious. All right, and number 3, you see, they create a plume of negative charges which elevates by natural updrafts and winds. So they're literally just shooting the atmosphere full of ions with electricity, and they're just hoping that the wind is going to pick it up. Okay, the Earth's electric field will get slightly influenced. And then you can see on number 5, cloud particles such as ice, nuclei, and droplets become charged near cloud boundaries, increasing their growth speed drastically. And then 6, you can see they finally started to make it rain. And look at the top. They have a satellite, okay? Where do they talk about satellites? They don't. So they just show us a picture of a satellite that's beaming down some sort of probably EMF onto this cloud in conjunction with their negative ions, okay? Enhanced clouds are developed and rainfall occurs potentially up to hundreds of kilometers away. It's unbelievable. They're just showing us exactly how they do it. All right, let's move on to the next picture here. All right. It says multiple benefits, areas of applications for WeatherTech technology. Number one, we have on the left, rainfall enhancement. Description, enhance rainfalls by mimicking nature. Okay, what did I say earlier? They're trying to mimic nature. They're trying to mimic God. They're trying to steal the earth away from God. Grow rain cells and intensify rainfall. Okay, self-explanatory there. Areas of influence are thousands of kilometers away. Wow. Impact, thousands of kilometers away. That means these pyramid structures can impact you even if you don't know they exist. So this is real, folks. All right, impact. Increase available fresh water. Okay. Irrigate farmlands. Reduce fires. Support reforestation. Mitigate migration due to droughts. Oh, so all the impact is good. There's no negatives that could come from this. They're telling us literally everything that can happen is positive. All right, move over to the right. You see a mountain. It says snowfall enhancement. Ooh, same process as rain enhancement with snow as precipitation. Employed at freezing temperatures below freezing point. Wow. Impact, secure water reserves, build ice pack, support winter tourism, increase snowpack. Moving on. Cloud coverage. Increase cloud coverage when enough humidity is available. Reduce temperature by 5 degrees Celsius or more. I mean, this is just unbelievable. I can't believe this is real. Impact of cloud coverage. Save lives in heat waves. Oh, wow. How altruistic of these guys. They want to save lives. Yeah, right. Reduce consumption of electricity for ACs and water irrigation. Oh, how nice. They want to reduce electricity. Improve quality of life. Here you have, okay, so seeding rain, seeding snow, and seeding clouds with this technology. Not one negative so far. Everything is positive. All right, let's look at fog reduction. Increase size of fog droplets until they drizzle and rain down. Optimal for cold fogs, no to few wind. Impact, increase security through reduced or dissipated fog airports, seaports, and highway sections. Oh, here we have increased security. I mean, where have you heard that before? All right, what else? Additional sources of fresh water. So this is just a miracle, guys, right? This is a miracle technology. Yeah, right. It says right here at the bottom of the page, the most environmentally friendly technology, no chemicals. Wow. Purge negative ions and clean operation. Scrolling down the page, they give us a nice chart. Okay, all you chemtrail researchers are going to be very, very excited to see this because they're admitting chemtrails are real. We all know they're real, but here's another piece of evidence for your evidence locker. Okay, so the highest potential in generated fresh water. So what they're doing here is they're giving us a chart. They're comparing WeatherTech technology to cloud seeding, which is chemtrails, and then to desalinization, which is converting seawater into fresh drinking water. Okay, so description. WeatherTech. Charge humidity in clouds with ions. Reduce required humidity to generate rainfalls. Okay. Cloud seeding. Grow cloud droplets and ice nuclei through chemical agents. Listen to this. Chemical agents. Agents include silver iodide, potassium iodide, and we all know there's 10,000 more chemicals they're spraying, but they're openly admitting it right here. I mean, this is for all the world to see. Desalinization. Separate fresh water from seawater. Several technologies based on distillation or reverse osmosis. All right, so now we're going to go over the strength of all three. So the strength of the WeatherTech system is rainfalls cover large areas over 1,000 kilometers. Most environmentally friendly technology. Okay, so now let's go to cloud seeding. The strength of cloud seeding is increase probability of rain generation from existing clouds. And the strength of desalination is acceptable at any seashore quantity of generated fresh water predictable. All right, so we have some key limitations here that these guys want to point out to us. So the key limitations of the WeatherTech system is it requires areas with over 40% humidity. So this system won't work in the desert, or it won't work in very dry, arid places such as Death Valley. The key limitations for cloud seeding are environmental concerns due to usage of chemicals, required specific clouds, and uneven performance. And the key limitations of desalination are requires sea access, extremely expensive generation of large amount of wastewater, high energy consumption. So what are they telling us? They're telling us that chemtrails are very real and they have been using them. However, they are toxic and expensive. So they want us to switch to this. So let's move on down the page and see what else they have to say. So this is the same chart, just a little bit down the page. So now it's giving us energy required to make the water, annual operating costs, annual capital costs, capital investment, and operation. So if we're looking here at this cloud, this new ionization technology, it's extremely cheap. The operating costs are low, zero capital investment. I don't see how that's possible because those pyramids look pretty expensive to me. And serviced by WTS. Okay, so just trust them. You know, they'll take care of everything for you. The fresh water production. 100% H2O molecules are formed by this technology. No minerals have been added to the drinking water, and it's perfect for plants. Oh, so there's no downsides. Once again, now let's move over to the chemtrail part of it. So energy for water is not available for the chemtrails because it's just, we all know it's pretty crazy. Annual operating cost, I believe this is in pounds, 100 million to 150 million pounds per year. And then, or is that euros? I'm sorry, euros. Annual capital costs, 11 million to 19 million euros per year. If you want to do chemtrails. Capital investment, you need 150 to 250 million euros. And you need required aircraft and chemicals, obviously, to do the spraying. All right. Water molecules and chemical residuals like silver iodide, potassium iodide, and cement powder. Cement powder. They're spraying cement powder into our skies. We all know of all the other heavy metals such as barium and the list just keeps going on. All right, poisoning in small quantities enters food chain through plants and animals. Okay, yeah, and we all know that that's planned. They want these chemicals to enter the food chain because these chemicals are part of their control mechanism. All right, I don't even want to read the part for the salty water because that doesn't really apply to us. So let's move on to the next page. The company goals here. WeatherTech's vision. WeatherTech is committed to mitigate severe droughts and bring additional fresh water in an environmental friendly way to hundreds of millions of people. WeatherTech has developed a unique technology to initiate and enhance rainfalls in even semi-arid regions, making it the world's largest additional freshwater reservoir. It is a green, leading-edge technology for more natural precipitation just by mimicking the sun's processes. They're mimicking the sun, they're trying to mimic God, and they're trying to mimic his creation. All right, so keep moving on here. Command and control. Everything under control. The WeatherTech Command and Control Room is the heart of the system monitoring and operation in all ionization sites. German meteorologists, IT experts, atmospheric physicists, and engineers work together to prepare the best forecasts to ensure real-time control of the operations. Customized high-resolution weather models are applied in collaboration with local meteorological institutes. Worldwide experience, think rain. So these are the companies that they're openly admitting to cloud seeding or creating fake rain. They've done it in Australia twice, UAE twice, Jordan ongoing, and Switzerland. There is a lot more information on the website. I encourage you guys to go investigate this company for yourselves. Well,
Well, hey, Alexa, can you tell me about Hurricane Milton? Yeah, and Alexa will tell you about Hurricane Milton in the past tense, which is remarkable. Even Amazon's Alexa can already tell you that Hurricane Milton has strengthened to a hurricane and has wrought destruction. Alexa's amazing, isn't it? It's really amazing how these tools work these days. Where I mean, even it's remarkable. Anyway, how many of you have tried that little skill? Of course, that's been going viral over the past 24 hours. When you ask Alexa about Hurricane Milton, before it even became a hurricane, it seemed to have already been updated in its database. It's remarkable stuff. How this all works. Well, it's already being called a record-breaking hurricane that's about to slam into Florida. People across the southern part of the United States are being told to leave and to brace themselves. Florida residents being told to get out right now. I mean, how many of you are watching right now that live in that area or planning to leave? Let us know. Sewers and water are already being turned off. Schools are closed and more are closing. All of this is happening as early voting is happening. Absentee voting is already happening across the South. So we'll have more on that in a second, but here's the latest.
In the meantime, let's ride our video monitors down to the state of Florida. That state is once again in a path of life-threatening hurricane. We're talking about Milton that's now strengthened to a monster there in the Atlantic, a Category 5 storm. So evacuations are now underway just a day after Hurricane Helene wreaked havoc across the state, or days after. Governor DeSantis calling on all counties there to speed up debris removal ahead of Milton's landfall.
Local officials and their vendors must continue debris removal efforts for those areas that are in the potential path of this storm. My executive order requires debris landfill and dump sites to remain open 24/7 to accept debris from Hurricane Helene. We need as much of this debris picked up as possible. This creates a safety hazard, and it also will increase the damage that Milton could do with flying debris.
Right. So now we're dealing with all of the debris from Hurricane Helene that's still there in big piles. We're talking all sorts of, plywood and wood, 2x4s, and car debris and shingles and everything else. It's just in big piles right now. Aluminum siding, things like that, all in big piles, which could be then projectiles for this new storm. So perfect fodder for this new storm, perfect projectiles. So overnight, Hurricane Milton went from a Category 3 to a 4 within an hour. And then within another hour, it became a Category 5. According to Into Thin Air, maybe the fastest move ever seen in the Gulf of Mexico. The thing is turning into a beast, and it's heading right into another storm that could also merge and then smash right into Florida. Bizarre swirling radar anomalies are also once again present here, just like we saw with Hurricane Helene. These same weird patterns from these radar signatures. And it's asking many people right now, or people are wondering if this hurricane is being controlled or geoengineered on purpose. We put up a poll here so far. 94% of you in our audience, 94% say that this is that weather can be manipulated for sure. So take a look. This is the hurricane track over the last few hours. It's highly unusual for the hurricane to intensify from a Category 3 to a 4 to a 5 within 1 hour. Meaning it became a Category 3 and then 1 hour later became a Category 4 and then less than an hour later becomes a Category 5. Very rare. Media, of course, across Florida right now telling you to get out right now.
The Ready, Set, Go is a great idea of who's going to be feeling impacts, but you'll notice areas here where we're talking about evacuations and final preparations, maybe boarding up the house. You have areas in through Pinellas County, by the way. They do have evacuations, and they're also in some areas like St. Pete Beach. They're turning off sewage and water. Tomorrow morning, it's all off. So that's another reason to go.
Yeah, exactly. Think of this as like a stoplight. They stop what you're doing in your everyday life and get ready. Get your medications, get whatever you need, right, to make sure that you are set, your family's set, your pets are set, your evacuation route, in case you don't know as well. Hillsborough County.
So get out now is the message there. Here's the latest storm track from just a few minutes ago. This is where we are now, west-northwest of Progreso, Mexico. A Category 5. Massive beast of a storm that's heading right toward, and who knows whether this will be, whether this will be downgraded from a 4 to a 3 or whether it will sustain at a 5. A lot of people saying there's a lot of similarities here between this track of Hurricane Charlie back in 2004, right before the election in 2004. But of course, that one came from a little bit south of Key West and came right up along the coastline to that direction. This is coming obviously from the Mexico direction here. And before you call it conspiracy theory, we did a whole deep dive last week here on the show about the U.S. government's history of using weather modification in the thin air. Notices some very similar radar anomalies. We saw this with Helene back again with this very same storm, the same exact radar signatures that he's picked up on. Watch.
All right, let's take a look at Florida, and already it's looking like a disco party is going on. A lot of different radar activity going on. We got spikes here going all the way into the Gulf, heavy lines up in this area, and then, of course, we have the one we saw with Hurricane Helene right here going off again. Now, of course, remember, these are just theories that we're talking about here, entertainment purposes only, because no way is weather modification real, right, everybody? Anyway.
Right.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Just entertainment purposes only.
Mm-hmm.
There's no weather modification, except there is. And here's a whistleblower who's come forward. She worked on these projects. And
here with Kristen
Sorry. And she's suing the federal government for lying to the American people. Listen.
And she's a military veteran, right?
Yes, I was in the U.S. Air Force for 9 years.
Wow. And you came out and blew the whistle on geoengineering, things that you witnessed were going on. Can you give us the real nutshell?
Absolutely. Basically, I had heard of what many people know as the term chemtrails. And I worked in a job called bioenvironmental engineering. And I thought that was insane. And why would we do something like that? Modify the weather by using hazardous materials in our atmosphere. So, and actually the process of trying to debunk it or disprove it, I realized it was actually coming right out of my office, as I was one of the people that was approving the chemicals. And it really shook the core of my oath. And I did a lot of sampling, a lot of investigation, and I blew the whistle and I got out. And I've now used my credentials, my oath, and my powers for good to help people understand it's very real. It's now openly admitted. There are multiple forms of weather modification. I specifically found the one of stratospheric aerosol injection. And collectively around the globe, we have to understand that it is now being admitted because they're saying it's combating climate change. Well, the climate change we need to be worried about is man-made climate engineering, also known as geoengineering.
Yeah, entertainment purposes only. So don't take her word for it. Take the former head of the CIA talking about it, how it's the most exciting weapon he's ever seen. This is John Brennan.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly.
Yeah, so the CIA is loving this program as well. Let's talk about the voting issue here. So we've got the weather manipulation piece of this, which a lot of people are wondering if it's going on with this Category 5 storm, similar weird radar anomalies that are also happening. Let's talk about this voting issue, though, which is being largely ignored right now. So North Carolina is ground zero, guys, for a Harris-Walz victory. If they can take over North Carolina in a way, President Trump narrowly won North Carolina. If they can take over North Carolina, they'll win this presidency, bottom line. And that's why they've already made North Carolina priority one this year already. President Biden touring in North Carolina. Harris rolled out her economic plan in North Carolina. They've been putting a lot of resources into North Carolina, television ads, marketing, and of course, campaign stops. So all it takes, Democrats need 23,000 votes. 23,000 votes. That's all the swaying needs to happen in order for Harris and Walz to win. And even Politico right away, after Helene called this out and said, Helene hit Trump strongholds in Georgia, North Carolina. It could swing the election. Diving into the numbers, yeah, guess what? If these individuals don't have homes, they don't have it away, they're not there anymore. They've been, gone to Ohio to stay with relatives. They're not there for their absentee ballots because these post offices are now closed. We identified here about a week and a half ago here on the show all of the zip codes where these post offices are now closed. Mail not being distributed to these areas. Polling places without heat and electricity and without running water, which means they are closed. Don't take my word for it. Take liberal CNN's word for it. They're detailing all of these polling places which are closed. Election officials in Georgia, North Carolina, Florida work right now amid Hurricane Helene fallout. Election officials in Georgia, North Carolina, Florida working quickly to ensure voters can still securely cast early ballots despite the devastating storm impacts of Hurricane Helene that have in some cases left them without power, water, and cell service. Potential solutions in the affected counties of the 3 states which could determine the White House could include extra polling places, extended early voting, and making it easier to drop off mail ballots. We have no power. We have no water. Cell service is limited. So right now the concern is a delay in getting the absentee ballots mailed out. A delay in receiving the mail. The executive director of Augusta Richmond County Board of Elections in Georgia told CNN. Doss said some of the county's 43 polling locations could be unable to be used. And that's just putting it conservatively, just in Georgia. Not to mention the dozens upon dozens in North Carolina, which are unusable and have been destroyed. Where are these people going to vote? How are they going to vote? How are they going to receive these votes in the mail? All
Maybe
of these Trump voters.
Reinstate the Pony Express.
Right. I was thinking Paul Revere. Do we have any of those archetypes that can trot it in on horseback?
Well, you're making fun of it, but last week we saw that they're bringing in mules. They're actually using mules right now to try to transport supplies into these hard-hit areas of North Carolina. We have a lot of sources in that area that are working different angles of the story. We're going to bring more to you on the supply angle and what's going on in North Carolina this week. Some great journalists who are there that we've been corresponding with, and what's actually happening on the ground with the number of additional body bags that have been ordered. We're hearing reports of up to 4,000 body bags that have been ordered. They're still finding bodies in trees, in cars, all over the place, and they don't have power. They don't have a way to get supplies in. And there's also, of course, reports of sabotage of these supplies. And this was last night where 2 black helicopters came in at a donation center in Western North Carolina where they had lined up supplies. These helicopters came in and just on purpose whipped using hung over this particular area, flies into the area and uses rotor washes and destroys all of the stuff, and then takes off, disappears. They've been trying to find out who these helicopters were. They can't find out. And this was not one of the resupplies helicopters. These were unrelated to the supply helicopters. They came in and destroyed the supplies and then took off. And you had individuals there who were trying to get these supplies out to people in North Carolina. There's been multiple reports like this of sabotage of these supplies. They dipped down, performed a rotor wash, which seemed deliberate, then flew off, destroyed a lot of the staging area, harming the people directly below. One was a canine security officer who was doing sweeps of these vehicles to make sure nothing nefarious was coming through. So they're asking, were they special forces, private contractors? They don't know. And then others were trying to locate through their flight trajectory and their flight tracking. They don't know who they are, calling them ghosts, basically. So what the hell is going on? It's hard not to feel like we're all being played right now, right?
Yes, I feel like that all the time.
I mean, you have 2 hurricanes that are, with you weird radar anomalies. You have all of these areas which have never been hit by this type of flooding in the mountains. areas completely cut off and polling places shut down now, conveniently destroyed. And all you need is 23,000 votes in North Carolina for Harrison Waltz to win the election. I mean, it feels like we're being played right now. So
well, let us know what you think of that.
Yeah, our thoughts are with the folks of Florida right now, too, as well as all of the people devastated in North Carolina and Georgia and other parts of Florida. What are you guys planning to do? I lived in Orlando, Florida during the 2004 Charlie, I think it was Ivan, and I forget the other one. There was like 4 major hurricanes that came across within like 4 weeks. It was devastating. And they all crisscrossed right before the election, right through the middle of the state. And they came right through, and it was utter destruction through Tampa all the way up through Orlando up into Jacksonville. So it was devastating. And they're talking about that this power could be out in these areas for months. They might not be able to restore power for months. This is unbelievable. I know when I lived in Florida, we didn't have power for weeks at a time. And the blistering heat of August in Florida, it was miserable. It was absolutely miserable.
And you think about the supplies, the people who need let's say a diabetic who needs their insulin, things like that. Like, how is this going to actually affect the lives of people who depend on the supply chain?
Jesus, North Carolina has been dealing with quite a bit since Hurricane Helene, and Lindsey Graham is not helping. Not helping, okay? And I want you to hear this because this is insane. This is insane. As much as we've talked about what has happened to residents in Asheville, North Carolina, what they're going through. You have people who have lost their entire lives, like their homes are gone. They don't know where they're going to go, what they're going to do, or if they'll be able to rebuild. I am from, not from North Carolina, but my family, my grandparents were born and raised in North Carolina, and then they moved to Baltimore, Maryland, which is where they had my parents, and my parents had me and all that jazz. But I went to high school in North Carolina, and I have quite a number of friends that still live in North Carolina. And I did reach out to those that are in Asheville. I was curious to see, how they're doing. From what I understand, some people have been able to get power back as of recent, but it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad from what I heard from my friends. I'm not talking about the news because, the news has said some things, and I'm kind of like, let me ask a friend of mine if that's the case. So it kind of depends on where you are in that particular area. So people are just going through it. And I have been through a number of hurricanes in my lifetime. I told you guys we used to have hurricane parties when I lived in the Carolinas, except if it was going to be like category 4 or something, we knew better. But we used to have hurricane parties because they happen and they usually happen this time of year. But based on what I've seen so far and what I've heard from friends, this particular hurricane in Asheville, North Carolina is basically North Carolina's Hurricane Katrina. And there has been quite a bit of property damage and people have died. There have been lives that have been lost. Now, I want you to think about that when you hear this BS that Lindsey Graham wants to say here when he's asked about the people in North Carolina. Listen to this.
You can thank Donald Trump and Elon Musk for that. I've been going all over South Carolina like most people. I hadn't slept much. But look what's going on in Israel. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people that want to kill them, destroy them, a second Holocaust in the making. And Biden says, be proportional. What is the proportional response to people who want to kill you and your family? They're running out of ammunition in Israel. We have to help our friends to keep the war over there from coming here. They're willing to. You can thank Donald Trump and Elon Musk for that. I've been going all over South Carolina like most people. I hadn't slept much. But look what's going on in Israel. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people that want to kill them, destroy.
But look at what's going on in Israel. There is literally, you can see part of a building floating in water in North Carolina, in Asheville, North Carolina. But Lindsey Graham wants you to ask about Israel. Lindsey Graham's like, yeah, you know, I know, but let's talk about what's happening in Israel. I don't know how he can make it even more obvious to people. He's looking out for his donors. Lindsey Graham cares more about what's happening in Israel. Does everybody get that? See what I told you? These two parties, they don't care about either one of you. Neither one of these parties care about you. What is going on in Israel? When Sean Hannity, and I watched the full thing, when Sean Hannity is talking about what is happening to people in Asheville, North Carolina, who just lost their homes. And by the way, people didn't just lose their homes, people lost their jobs. Because there were businesses that were destroyed too. People trying to figure out where they're going to get money from, how they're going to continue to move on, if they're going to have to stay there, if they have to go somewhere else. But he wants you to talk about what's going on in Israel. The donor class has a tight hold on politicians in this country. So since Lindsey Graham doesn't want to talk about these people, I'm going to talk about these people. I want you to see something. Shout out to Shadow of Ezra. A woman from Western North Carolina in tears, recounts the horrific sight of seeing babies' bodies floating down the river. Brace yourself for this one.
Hey, y'all. So I'm safe in my house. Our power came on. I have water and I'm so blessed. But the reports that are coming out of these towns in Western North Carolina are horrific. The news is not even coming close to catching the true devastation. There are bodies that are floating down the river, babies. And if this is not a wake-up call that our government is not for us, then I don't know what is. They're everyday citizens who are taking it upon themselves to go and deliver items and things to these people. Anyway, pray for Western North Carolina. Don't believe everything that you're hearing on the news, because they're not. One of my friends in Canada had heard that there were like 200 people missing and maybe 40 dead. Y'all, so much more than that. At the local hospital in Asheville, there are over 900 unidentified bodies. And that was just from 2 days ago. So I'm sure there are more, but there are people are floating down the river. And if you're able and you can donate, or you can get it in the hands of a real person. There were like, I think 10 different truck drivers who were trying to deliver goods, and they all stopped on the way up there, and every single tire was flashed. And so it's going to be up to us. We cannot count on Uncle Sam.
No,
It's going to be neighbor helping neighbor. And I don't care how old or young you are. If you can't get out there or you can't donate, you can pray. Because the devastation is nothing like I have ever seen. And I think this is going to go down probably as one of the worst storms in American history. I just cannot fathom the pain and the destruction and the stuff that these people are going through. So anyway, just remember Western North Carolina, and listen to the people who are on the ground, not the news, because they don't know.
It's really sad. And something I want to point out as well is that as long as I can remember, I never remember Asheville, North Carolina having a flood. Because Asheville is in the mountains. So it's like, you know, kind of it's the western part of North Carolina. And typically, like during hurricane season, like they, for the most part, wouldn't have to worry about that. But I never remember Asheville flooding. And when you're not used to having to deal with that type of disaster, oftentimes the community is not prepared for that, or there isn't infrastructure. From what I heard from people who were actually there, not the news, from what I heard from people who were actually there was little to no warning. One person said that they were told it was just going to be rain. And there are obviously mudslides. So it's tough to hear, but you need to hear it, because I feel like I'm having Hurricane Katrina vibes and flashbacks all over again. Because I remember when Hurricane Katrina happened, I remember people were stranded. I remember people seeing footage of people standing on top of the roof of their house because the water was so high. It took the federal government a long time to actually, like, I guess, come in and respond. I remember, this is crazy. I remember country singer Tim McGraw got there to help people before the federal government did. Like, this is what I remember. I remember there were celebrities that were helping out people in New Orleans before the government did, which is crazy. And it's wild and insane when you think about it. But from what I understand, I guess it makes sense with Tim McGraw, because I think that's his home. I think that's where he's from. And here we go again. And I just want to remind everybody, after Hurricane Katrina, there were a number of people in New Orleans that were displaced. I remember there were people from New Orleans that were sent to Columbia, South Carolina. This is when I was at University of South Carolina. And I remember one of the people that moved into the apartment next to mine, they were from, because they told me, they said they were from New Orleans. And I'll never forget this. So get this. I had a 1-bedroom apartment. The apartment across from me was also a 1-bedroom apartment. They had that entire family in one bedroom apartment. All of them, grandpa, grandma, mom, dad, the kids, grandbabies, they were all in that one apartment. That's why I was really confused. I remember coming home from work, because I was waiting tables at the time too. I remember coming home from work, and I remember thinking to myself, like, all of them? And they were very friendly. So I asked grandpa one time, I was like, all of you live in the same apartment? And he was like, yeah. I was like, isn't that a 1-bedroom apartment? And he was like, yeah. He said, they just put us where they could put us. He said, I don't think we'll ever be able to go back. How many of those families that were displaced after Hurricane Katrina, how many of those families were able to move back to New Orleans? I'm curious. And I'd be really interested to hear from those who lived in some of the other areas, because from what I understand, New Orleans, yes, they were able to rebuild some parts of New Orleans. But I've also heard from people that some of the people that were from some of the, I guess you would call them the rougher neighborhoods or whatever, in the New Orleans area, I heard from some people that those areas were never rebuilt, that some of those areas still look really bad, that they just kind of left it like it was. And so we're talking about displacement again, right? So I told you guys before, displacement happens because of different things. It's not just because of war. Like we talked about that a lot with Gaza, how Palestinians have become refugees and people have to move, they're pushed into different places, etc. You'll see that happening with the West Bank. You'll also see that that's going to happen with Lebanon. We'll get into the Lebanon thing in a second. But also weather. People get displaced because of weather. So if you're one of those people, if you're one of those families that lived in New Orleans prior to Hurricane Katrina and you were displaced and you were not able to go back to New Orleans, I would really love to hear from you. And actually, even if you were able to move back to New Orleans, but you weren't able to move back into the neighborhood you lived in because it's more expensive now, because again, they renovated the areas and there's gentrification. I would love to hear from you. Please email me You can find my email address in the detailed description of all my videos, because this is what's going to happen with Asheville too. All those people aren't going to be able to stay there, especially like if your home is gone. And I'm willing to bet, because I've never heard of Asheville having a flood, I'm willing to bet most of those people did not have flood insurance. And one of the people that I know that lives in Asheville is a lawyer. And she said it's devastation, total devastation. So I'm really interested in hearing from the ones that were born and raised in Asheville, North Carolina, not people who moved there like later on. Asheville has become a little bit more expensive over the years, but it was kind of known as like an artsy, fartsy, kind of community in the mountains. I'm thinking about the people who were born and raised there, blue collar workers. These are the people that I'm thinking about. They'll probably be displaced permanently and maybe will never be able to come back to Asheville. You know why? Because when these types of disasters happen, you know who's lurking around? Investors. And when investors are lurking around, they're looking to see what property that they can buy up that's just been damaged, that they can renovate, they can soup it all up, make it look good. And then you'll never be able to go back there. Lindsey Graham, though, he wanted to talk about Israel. Apparently that was more important to him instead of this. Twin babies who died alongside their mom. They're the youngest known Hurricane Helene victims. I'll never get to know my grandsons. That was from the grandmother. Twin babies. Total devastation. Total devastation. And you know what? Here's another thing I want to mention. A lot of times people want to point to the victims and they say, well, why didn't you guys leave? Again, I'm telling you, from what I have heard from people there, they didn't get adequate warning. And two, I want to be very clear. Everybody can't afford to pick up their family and evacuate. Number of reasons. Financial reasons. You don't know how long you're going to be gone. Can you afford to pay for a hotel room for that many days? Remember, a lot of Americans are just one paycheck away from being homeless. So keep that in mind. Two, they may have kids. So it's not just you that you have to evacuate, it's also your children. And then the third one that a lot of people don't think about, which is pets. Not all hotels, in fact, a lot of hotels will not allow you to bring your pets in. A cat you might be able to get away with, dogs, not so much sometimes. It all depends. So that's another thing. That's another reason why some people don't leave, because they said, I got my dogs. Like, so I can't just take my dogs with me and just go stay in a hotel and hope that they'll let me stay there with my dogs. That's another thing too, that a lot of people don't want to get into, but the pet factor. But it's a classist mindset to assume that everybody can just pick up their stuff and they can afford to go live somewhere else for who knows how many days. Because it can be 2 days, it can be a week, it can be, you don't know how long it is going to be. And then to sit up there and see, our government want to give them $750. And is it even $750? Because based on this article, what I saw here, you're going to get into this, okay? Now, this is from WJCL. Georgia, on my mind. Did Helene leave you without power? How to get up to $750 for groceries. Now, here we go with the up to again. I don't know how many times this year we're going to see the up to. Kamala Harris, $25,000 down payment, went from $25,000 down payment to $25,000 tax credit to up to $25,000 on the website. Now we got $750 that is supposed to come from FEMA. Now they're saying up to $750. Which is it? Up to? For groceries. Now look at the wording again. Did Helene leave you without power? How to get up to $750 for groceries? Well, if you don't have power, where are you going to keep the groceries? You're not going to be able to get anything that's perishable. What if you have a baby? What if you have a baby that is still on formula? Or you have to put the bottles in the refrigerator. I don't know how this is working out. I'm just asking questions. Seriously, where are you going to store all the food? And people say, well, they can just get coolers and stuff like that. Okay. For all of it? up to $750. Meanwhile, and this is where we got to point the fingers, right? Because meanwhile, our government has billions to give to Israel, Ukraine. And people say, well, the federal government, the money is coming from FEMA, not the federal government. And you guys need to point fingers at FEMA. Okay, what happened to all that money FEMA had? What happened to all that money? Do you guys know that some of the victims from Hurricane Katrina, it took people a long time to get those FEMA checks? You know how many people were sitting up there saying they were waiting on that check? How long is it going to take for Asheville? Now I want to point something out to you. After Hurricane Katrina, remember, Kanye West was on record saying George Bush does not care about Black people. It was him and Mike Myers standing right next to each other on national television. And I was like, whoa, I can't believe Kanye said that. But he did. Now, you fast forward to Asheville, North Carolina, not a predominantly Black city. You're looking at some people who were born blue collar white people who grew up in Asheville, North Carolina. Yeah, you had the gentrification come that way too, but not as many Black people in Asheville, North Carolina. So now you see they don't care about you either. What are we going to do about that? And I keep telling people, and listen, if you're watching and you're white and you're blue collar, I keep telling people that are watching the show, the number of times that you see the government just basically disrespect or disregard poor Black people or low-income Black people or Black people altogether, it's only a matter of time before they do something to you too. It's only a matter of time before they disregard you. It's only a matter of time till they say they don't care about you either. And now you see this happening in Asheville, North Carolina. But Lindsey Graham wants you to worry about Israel.
Alton Williams, you guys got to see this. Back to the channel. It's your man Wise. I have another clip from Apostle Alton Williams. You guys got to see this. He says everything that needs to be said. There will be no additional context from me. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's go.
Big party, I'm going to say it tonight so that you won't be confused, is the Antichrist party. It is anti-family. And I'm going to say this, you're not going to believe it, but it is anti-Black folk. You are only needed for votes. You are only loved when it's time to get your votes. There's no real care about you. And see, we still stuck, and we got that thing ingrained in us that this is the party for the Black man. It is not. The party has changed. Black people, really, to be honest with you, have never been the priority. They have only been used. Go back and look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We've all given Democrats credit for that, but Johnson was the one that wanted to pass it, but he couldn't get enough Democrat votes to pass it. It was the Republicans that pushed and passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Go tonight and look it up. Look at Wiki, W-I-K-I, put it in there, 1960. He couldn't even get enough Democrats to vote for it. So he had to go to Republican senators in order to help him out. They are anti-life. The party pushes stuff that's anti-life. It pushes anti-morality because most of their policies are immoral, that pushes sexual perversion. It is the party of death. Why do you say that, Pastor? If you go back, you'll see slavery started with the Democratic Party. And we saw many slaves that died. We also saw under Jim Crow. Jim Crow was established by Democrats. And we saw under Jim Crow how many were hung and lynched. And then we are seeing today how many babies African-American people are giving up their future because they won't have, in another 15, 20 years, they won't have enough people because they have cut their birth rates off and have aborted their children. This is exactly what the party wants. So it is a party of death when it comes down to it. It is a party that is against Black families. Look at the history of the family. From slavery, which were Democrat plantation owners, in slavery, they separated our families. They would not even acknowledge the marriages of Black families. They would even take a Black man over here who called himself being married to a woman, but if he was a big, strong guy, they took him and made him mate with another woman. That's one of the reasons our marriages and our families have not been strong, because the spirit of that has passed down generationally. We have not always had strong family structures like we should have. Now, we did good up in the early 1900s, 1920, 30. Our families were pretty good and pretty strong during that time. But what happened was they bought the war on poverty. This was Democrat. Bought the war on poverty. You know what they did? They gave money to fix a problem. So they had programs, they gave welfare, but they took one key out that they understood was the key to the family. They took the man out of the home. Ladies, we'll give you the money, but you can't have a man in your house. That means the children now were robbed of them having a father. And so that kept, once again, another policy that has hurt our families. And then even today, Black Lives Matter, which was also supported by the Democratic Party, they had in their particular policies that they were against the nuclear family that had the father at the head. They did not believe in patriarchy. And so we look down through the years and we've seen the party destroy our families, and people don't see it because they don't understand truth. This is why policy is so important, because it should be about America first. That's like all of you in your homes, your home, your children, and what you're responsible for has got to be first before you go and try to help everybody else. So we need to take, in order to be a blessing to other citizens from other nations, we got to take care of America first.
God bless Apostle Alton Williams. He said it all, man. The Democrat Party is the anti-Christ, anti-family, anti-Black folk party. They brought your replacements over here. Dr. Claude Anderson's been talking about this for a long time. Your replacements are here. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section. I'm so looking forward to hearing from you guys. Keep God first in your
Well, in 2016, Democrats sold us a line that Republicans were sexist, and that's why Hillary Clinton lost the presidential election. I bought it. I was one of those who thought, oh, yes, America's racist. That's why Barack Obama was opposed. Now America's sexist. They didn't want a woman in president. I legitimately believe that people were just too sexist to vote for a woman. Do you remember the Pantsuit Nation? This was a 3 million person Facebook group that supported Hillary Clinton through the lens of feminism in the 2016 election. I did join this Facebook group, and I watched how people told each other that Hillary's failures were due to sexism and that Trump voters were super ignorant. Well, that narrative is now at play for Kamala Harris. The Pantsuit Nation Facebook group shut down in 2023, but they're back, you guys. They
Thank
are
God.
geared up.
Oh, I just joined it.
For Kamala Harris's pantsuits.
I just signed up for Kamala Harris's Pantsuit Nation.
Well, you have to sort of authenticate yourself in this Facebook group and say that you're going to be kind and you love joy.
I love
and
joy.
You're from a middle-class family.
I'm from a middle-class family. I love
We
joy.
should start
I love pantsuits.
the pantsuits for white dudes movement.
Well, White suits. That's was Disco Fever. That's done. That's not an original. Okay. So anyone who isn't motivated by these pantsuit ladies is apparently a sexist or a white male misogynist. If you don't buy Kamala Harris as this brilliant and deserving candidate, you're a sexist. Here's MSNBC saying so.
And I think they've got to double down on doing more interviews and serious interviews. Because what I'm hearing from Democratic and Republican business people and a lot of men, and she's got such a big problem with men. I think there's an undercount of the Trump vote. I think there's misogynation in all of this, black and white men. Big problem, but also the business world. They don't think she is serious. They don't think she's a heavyweight. And a lot of this is gender, but she's got to be more specific about her economic plans.
You know, did you hear that?
To Andrea's point, the gender divide is just so significant. You see the extent to which Harris is winning with women and that Trump is winning with men.
It's huge. It's the largest we've had in modern history. It seems to be getting bigger with time. Look, for people who know who they're going to bake for, we know like 80% of registered voters are kind of baked in, right? It's the latest PBS News poll now shows some 20% of folks say they're swayable in some way. 15% say, I think I know who I'm voting for, but I might change my mind. 5% so I don't know who I'm voting for. But I think with the things they're looking for at this stage of the game, there's no one big event, right, that's going to change people's minds one way or the other. It comes down to the issues.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's
do you know how
white men and black men, you're misogynistic against Kamala. Like if you're a white man, you're a black man out there, it's your misogyny which is hurting America right now because you won't vote for Kamala.
Right.
You know how disappointed I'd be in myself if I wrote that segment and had to go home at the end of the day and just realize that I wrote that.
I don't think that was written. I think that was off the cuff.
That's how they feel that way. There's no writing involved in that. That's how they all feel and talk amongst each other.
Right. Well, I would say this is sexism because they are pointing out how the business world doesn't take her seriously because she has no policy of substance, but the opposition to her is sexism. So the opposition, though, could also be the very thing that they just listed. So isn't it sexist to excuse her for that because she's a woman? I would say that's sexist. No one should get a pass for not having done the homework, not having an actual plan, but just being put in the seat because they're a woman. They're arguing that she should not be pushed on substance because she's a woman, which is sexist. Now, if the Democrats who want so badly to bring back identity politics, but it's a losing argument. Now, over the weekend, Elon Musk campaigned with Donald Trump, and this is the kind of rhetoric we saw from a Democratic strategist who hit with a tweet that has over 12 million views so far, saying that between Elon Musk and Trump, they have 17 children with 16 different women between the two of them. Well, if you said that about a woman, clearly that would be sexist, right? So isn't it sexist to say this about men or anyone based on their gender? And what's the point here? Is she saying that they're too promiscuous? Because I thought the freedom to be promiscuous was one of the Democratic Party's main talking points of the campaign. Or are they upset that none of those babies were aborted because that's their main thing?
I think they're most upset. Yeah, 17 children. That's the part that really they're like, the Malthusian effort to get rid of children and really control population control in the United States. Like they're upset. They're upset most about the children part of it.
Possibly, but you can't have reverse sexism. Sexism is sexism. So you're hitting out about somebody's parentage of children. If you were to say that about a woman, we would call it sexism. So it still is, even though it's about masculinity. Now, it's not really about masculinity. It's about a type of masculinity they don't like. For instance, last week, Politico took issue with JD Vance's beard. They're saying it's too aggressive. It's an opposition to feminist ideals, they say. Okay, think about that for a second as you read this, that it conveys aggression and opposition to feminist ideals. Feminism.
Actually, yes, it does.
No, wait, let me finish this point.
Okay.
Feminism is about the freedom to do whatever you want with your body. So by definition, a feminist cannot say a damn thing about a man's beard That's anti-feminist. Do you not see the contradiction? Now, I have brought up many times that it looks like he wears eyeliner because he has that beautiful contouring of his eyes. Philip has always said that that's okay. That's the way it's got to be. If he's wearing eyeliner, that's fine. Or if he just has those beautiful
I don't think he's
lined.
wearing eyeliner.
I don't think he, and Clayton doesn't wear mascara either. He just has naturally long lashes. That's just kind of the way it is. And us women can be jealous about it. But that's what masculinity looks like. It has various forms. So they're saying that the beard and parenting children are the wrong flavor of masculinity. But Democrats want to have this conversation about masculinity, but then not have it because the Democratic stars who are men are hardly winners in this category. Admittedly, I'm going to give Tim Walz a point for being avuncular, because I think he's got that going for him. But who else do they have that represents masculinity? Well, they have Barack Obama. Yes, he's cool. He also is a murderer. They have Joe Biden, who has credible accusations of sexual assault. They have Bill Clinton. They're still dragging him out after they water him like a plant. Many credible accusations of sexual assault, plus Epstein patronage. And now they have, who is this guy? Doug Emhoff. He's the second
First gentleman,
spouse.
second gentleman, first gentleman, whatever you
Second
call
gentleman. I was going to say wife, husband of Kamala Harris, who has credible accusations of him assaulting his girlfriend, actually several girlfriends, and impregnating a nanny during his marriage. But yet still, they're trying to build him up as this gold standard of supportive husband, as a redefinition of masculinity. Watch MSNBC's Jen Psaki just kind of gush all over his supportive husband role.
Important part, or an interesting part of how people have talked about your role here is how your role has reshaped the perception of masculinity. And I'm not sure you planned on that, but you are an incredibly supportive spouse. Has that been an evolution for you? And do you think that's part of the role you might play as first gentleman?
It's funny. I've started to think a lot about this. I've always been like this. My dad was like this. And to me, it's
Has he always been like that? Because now some of his ex-girlfriends are saying that when they spoke to other men, he slapped them in public several times. There are several accounts of this, and people who have actually told their friends, their corroborated accounts, that he has done this. So the Harris campaign has said nothing about this. They will not even address it. Now, at least when Access Hollywood released the tapes of Donald Trump and the grab him by the P word tapes, he tried to explain it as locker room talk. He was forced to give an explanation. Whether you buy that or not, at least it was addressing the issue. So am I saying that Republicans are model masculine archetypes? Of course not. Lots of problematic dudes on the Republican side. Off the cuff, I think of Lindsey Graham. Marco Rubio, warmongers, right? They're not much better. My point is that making this election about gender representation is stupid and a game that neither side should play. Everyone loses that game because it's not a major issue that Americans care about. I was distracted by this. I said many times about Hillary's gender, and I missed her murderous record. So I don't want to talk about gender anymore. I'm only bringing it up because they're talking about it, and it's stupid, and they have skeletons in their closets. Go ahead, David.
And what a smack in the face to all the women with beards.
Right.
I mean, it's 2024. Yeah.
Right.
I was just in Portland and I saw a lot of that.
A lot of beards.
Oh my god.
It's anti-feminist.
Yeah. I mean, it was like Portland, Oregon was like a whole other universe. I mean, it was like,
well, do you want a bad political package in a good representation package? You know what I'm saying? Like, she has no policies. She hadn't done much during the last 4 years, but she represents minority groups and liberal states. And so do you want it, right? Democrats will lose this conversation because they are conveniently ignoring their own problematic representation when the bigger issues are obvious: the economy, border security, and funding foreign wars and foreign security. That's literally it. So let me know if you think there's anything here worth talking about masculinity and how it's really the masculine, the toxic masculine that won't
All right, y'all, I'm back with a quick video. So I want you guys to see how the victims in North Carolina are speaking out about the aftermath in Hurricane Helene, how they're speaking out against the Biden-Harris administration, and also how these people tried to vilify President Trump because of his remarks about the funding. Watch this, y'all. This is crazy. Watch this.
It's always the case. It's often the case. It's all too often the case, Lawrence, these days when it comes to some crisis. You look to your neighbor. Sadly, we can't look to our leaders. And I know that you spoke to many of those neighbors, many of those people in North Carolina over the last couple of days. Here it is.
We never thought it would hit up here in these mountains like this. But when we walked down and seen that road gone and that bridge gone, I mean, it took my breath. I was like, what happened?
Lots of disaster in this area, a lot dead, a lot without power and water. We don't know when the water will be restored. I don't have either right now.
My son hiked 5 miles to get me. We went through all the devastation of, there were no roads, there were no homes, there was nothing.
Just so much damage. It's been somewhat overwhelming. We feel like we're in a war zone.
And I've experienced guys coming up here from other cities packing up this free stuff that they are sending us, saying they're going to sell it. All donated goods for us. I mean, there's places that lost their homes. There's families that lost everything they had.
People have drove up and they've saw what we've got, and they've just covered their face in their hands, sobbing that they were able to find something to eat, something for their babies.
It's such an outreach from around the country. I mean, folks from all states coming in, and they're just helping us and bringing supplies in, truckload after truckload.
So if anybody needs it, we're here. And we will, as long as we have supplies, we will be here for the long haul.
I think that our government can do more. Because we're going to need the help. There's roads gone. There's, it's going to take a lot to rebuild us.
There's so much more that could be done. And giving us $750 if you can even apply for it is ridiculous. And I've only heard of a handful of people getting approved. $750 isn't going to do anything even if you do get approved. Not with the damage we're seeing, not with the hurting that people are going through right now.
Where is the help for Western North Carolina? We can send billions to Ukraine, and we can't help Western North Carolina. We have spent all of this money on all of these people crossing our borders that are open. And now we're telling the people of America, the U.S., that need the money, we can't give you no money. That's our money. We pay it in, we work, and we should receive some benefit from the government with our own money. It's just not right. The people of Western North Carolina that are hit hard should not be suffering like this.
I don't think she's doing enough. And I don't think Biden's doing enough either. I'm sorry, I don't. Because I heard on the radio myself, so it ain't hearsay, Biden said, what storm?
Everybody I talk to, it's pretty much a slap in the face. We're not getting the support from her, from the president, the sitting president. We're just kind of having to suffer through it and figure it out on our own.
I would say to Kamala Harris, this tragedy did not happen in a nice neighborhood downtown Asheville. Step out, get your rain boots on, get your mud boots on, your gloves on, and go out there and walk through what I hiked through for 2.5 miles to get back to Asheville, to get back to my family. You hike it. Then you tell me what it's like. You step it up. You're up your game.
President Trump will do a lot. He's gonna help us.
He's definitely showing up, and he's making it known that he knows what's going on and that he wants to help.
We don't want to hand out. We want to hand up.
It's crazy that the lady right here, she said that she heard Biden say, what storm? So this Biden didn't even know it was a storm going on down in North Carolina. It's crazy. And then she said the $750 is not even enough, which is not, for the things that they're going through. But watch this. There's people not even receiving it. There's people who's getting rejected for the money who actually need it. Watch this. I'm going to show it to you because I know y'all ain't going to believe what I'm saying. So we're going to let y'all see it. Watch this. We're going to let y'all see what this woman right here.
I just want everyone to know that we are displaced due to Hurricane Helene from Western North Carolina. We cannot go home. We have no power, no food, no water, no nothing. We are spending $400 a night on a hotel due to price gouging in the surrounding areas because they know that people have nowhere to go. We applied for FEMA. Myself and my sister applied. My sister applied first. She got
Revolutionary salute to our brother LD Murray for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. Appreciate the love, family. Salute.
got denied. I said, okay, let me try. I applied. We got denied. So we have both been denied FEMA assistance. So everyone's saying FEMA is helping $750. And by the way, that $750 wouldn't even cover 2 nights at this hotel. So I just want everyone to know that FEMA sucks and president's doing nothing and we are stuck here. I am blowing through all my savings in a hotel to escape a natural disaster. So fuck you, FEMA. And by the way, do not donate to Red Cross, donate to Samaritan's Purse or to me because we are bringing supplies in. Donate to the victims directly. I'm not taking any of the money for myself. I don't like accepting anything. We are sending truckloads in from a friend who lives out in Greenville. So, and when we get to go back, we will bring a full truck of supplies. So.
Now they got mad at Trump because in Trump's rally that he just had in North Carolina, Trump spoke out because FEMA, allegedly they're claiming, this is from FEMA, they're claiming that they don't have any money. But when Trump spoke out against it, Joy Reid and all of these people went on, oh, Trump's claims that, his false claims, CNN, they went on, they definitely went on there to bash Trump. But Trump is not the one who said it. Watch this. I'm going to show you where that came from, why Trump said something about FEMA not having enough money because they helped the migrants. That didn't come from Trump. That came from here. Watch this. This is from New York Post. It says, feds say left to respond to hurricanes after FEMA spent $1.4 billion on migrants. The Fed said that. That's where Donald Trump got that from. Donald Trump didn't just make nothing up. He said what they said. Now watch this. False claims about FEMA disaster funds and migrants pushed by Trump. Trump didn't push that. He got it from the feds. They're the ones who said it. Now watch. Let's listen to the video, and they're going to say it on video. Watch.
Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas sounding the alarm on FEMA funding right after the devastation of Hurricane Helene. Listen.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
This all comes as the Biden-Harris administration spent over $1 billion from a FEMA program on services for migrants. Attorney General of the great state of Florida, Ashley Moody, joins me now. AG Moody, why does the Biden-Harris administration always seem to help American taxpayers last?
Good morning, Todd. Yeah, everyone should be waking up this morning outraged by that comment. This is not something that has just happened recently, and Florida's been warning about this since this administration took over. Mayorkas has come in like a virus and infected these what need to be healthy, strong, fundamental programs to ensure the stability and safety of Americans in times of disaster. So you heard, they have taken the FEMA Emergency Food and Shelter Program and over time siphoned off hundreds of millions of dollars into basically making it an illegal immigrant resettlement program. And so when you see these states and cities around the nation declaring emergencies, even blue states, because of what this administration has done, encouraging more and more and more, developing programs to encourage more and more and more people to come here, the government, Biden and Harris, are having to fund that on the backs of the American people. And now, right now, in Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, all of these states are hurting because of this truly natural disaster, not a Biden-Harris made disaster. They're saying we need more money. And of course they need more money because they've been laundering it from the true intended purpose of this fund that Congress set forth. Laws be damned.
So they done gave all the taxpayers money to these migrants. This is why I'm telling you, this is why a lot of us who are conservatives, this is why we vote against these Democrats, because we understand what's going on. A lot of y'all are uninformed voters. You don't understand the policies and the laws in this country. I told y'all before, Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote on this Inflation Reduction Act, which caused all of this inflation. Then on top of the inflation, you turn around and give all this funding to these migrants. Now this happens. Now you can't help tax-paying Americans who actually work every day, you know, breaking their back, getting underpaid, whether you're in fast food, whether you're in a nurse, whether you're a police officer, a firefighter, whatever it is. Even if you're a regular worker working in a warehouse, we know warehouse workers do back-breaking work and they don't get paid for it. They get paid little to nothing for back-breaking work. So you breaking your back, paying taxes so it can go to the migrants. But when the people who actually need the money can't get the money, that's why it's a problem with these Democrats. And then they go online and say, oh, Trump pushed this lie. Trump didn't push the lie. Trump got it from the feds. They said they didn't have no money. So you see what these people will do anything, man, to try to bash Trump and lie right in our faces. And then it's so much going on, man. You know, they steady bringing up this January 6th thing, you know, saying that Trump was trying to overturn the election. But in 2016, if y'all go back and look up, Hillary Clinton said out of her own mouth multiple times that Trump stole the election in 2016. Did they put her in jail or bring up cases or indict her? No, because you have a right to challenge the results of the election. You have a right to do that. So it's just crazy, man. Like, I wanted y'all to see this video so y'all can understand what these people are doing with our tax-paying dollars. Is going to these migrants, not you. So when you need something, guess what? They're going to look at you like you stole something. When these illegals coming into the country, they're going to give them everything and give you nothing. This is how this government takes a dump on us. And this is why we got to start waking up, man. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a free thinker. Whatever you are, this is not about Democrat or Republican. This is about us against the government that's coming down and taking a dump on our people, tax-paying Americans, and taking your money and laundering it out to all these other people. It's people here right now, they're going to tell you, what's your credit score when you're trying to get a house, but they're giving migrants free housing. They're going to ask you, what's your credit score when you're trying to get a car, you're trying to get a loan, but they just giving money away coming from your tax-paying money, your tax-paying dollars. This is what's happening to it. So everybody should, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, you should be looking at this like, man, hold on, what's really going on? Let's take a deeper dive into this government and see what's really going on. All right. So make sure y'all like the video, man. Share the video on your page. If this is your first time watching, make sure y'all subscribing to the
Just stop. Say no to Joy. That's all. Okay. Joy and Reed, in my opinion, is one of the most hypocritical, if not the most hypocritical anchors on TV today. And that ain't easy because you got Lawrence O'Donnell, you got the Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski, you got a lot of people, Chris Hayes, Stephanopoulos, you got Sean Hannity, you got a lot of people, everybody on the five, especially the guy who carries his weightlifting belt. Like, what's that about? But yeah, so Joy Reid is one of the most hypocritical anchors there is on TV. And to prove my point, here she goes on a rant, and it's so hypocritical that I'm thinking there might be a warrant out for her arrest.
It's calculated, right? I mean, Donald Trump isn't just a doddering fool who happens to be racist. He's a calculated person who is not trying to grow.
See how they talk as if they have a fact. It's like they talk as if, she talks as if she is the decider of what other people are. Look at Jen Psaki's face. She's like, this lady is crazy. She crazy. Come get her. Somebody come get her. And somebody just ran up and threw a blanket over her and put out the chloroform and just chloroformed her ass and put her in a straitjacket and threw her in the back of a van. No one would be surprised and be like, yeah, I knew they was going to do that one day. Knew it was going to happen. Joy is a mess. Listen to what she says. Listen to it. It's said. It's not only that she said it, she says it without a question mark. She says it matter-of-factly, like she's gonna give you some information, like there was a test, and we have determined based on our test, the racism test, that Donald Trump is a racist, and we have determined that based on these calculations. Here goes egghead number one, the corporate stooge for the Democratic Party coming out to tell you what we told him to tell you, but he's got cards and credentials to make it sound like it's right. Go. Nah, none of that. She makes this shit up herself. Listen to this.
He is calculated, right? I mean, Donald Trump isn't just a doddering fool who happens to be racist. He's a calculated person who is not trying to grow his vote share. He's trying to speak into the id of a particular kind of voter.
But he has grown his vote share into the blacks, into the Latinos, and into the young people. That's amazing. So his intention was not to grow his vote share, but his numbers are up with Latinos and with the blacks. And the young people. Amazing. See what I'm saying? What she says don't even make sense. And Psaki, of course, she's not going to say anything because she's cowardly. And Joy is scary because she's black and loud. These tethers going to tether. You know, I don't think I should have said that because I really don't aspire to that tether thing. But it's got to be something's got to be said about people who aren't really from America, black, you know what I'm saying? Who do shit like this. Now, don't get me wrong. We got our own sellouts. Joy be going too far, though, and I've covered other segments of her going too far. She got up here, she said, if you black and you don't vote for Kamala Harris, you are not going to be a part of the cool black club. And I'm like, what is she talking about? And here she is here. Say it's okay to say, I think Trump's this. She doesn't say, I think Trump's this. She says, Trump is this. Then she lies. She says, he ain't trying to grow his base. He's not trying to grow his voters. When I'm telling you, I do this for a living, his numbers are up. He has grabbed more votes from black Americans than any other president in the last 50 years. A Republican president. Republican. You know I meant Republican. How can you say he's not trying to grow his base? If his numbers have gone up with these segments, they're growing, right? Maybe it's good he's not trying. Because you've been saying the tennis shoes is for the blacks, as if white people don't buy tennis shoes. They actually buy more tennis shoes than we do. Obviously, there are more white people. Who do you think gonna buy them $100,000 watches? Not Dwayne Wade and Raj from What's Happening. So it don't make sense, man.
About when he says we have to call out Detroit, Philly, and Atlanta. We have to go into Philly, Detroit, Atlanta. He lost Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Michigan in 2020, which is how he lost the election. It's why he's under indictment for attempting to steal those races. What he's telling his voters, his small...
Well, you just said he wants to go into what places? He wanted to go into Philly? Well, let's see the places you said he wants to go into.
Attempting to steal those races, and it's why he's under indictment. Michigan in 2020, which is how he lost. And Michigan in 2020, Detroit, Atlanta. He lost Pennsylvania and Atlanta. We have to go into Philly, Detroit, Atlanta. He lost Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Michigan in 2020, which is how he lost the election. It's why he's under indictment for attempting to steal.
Let me get this right. And I'm ignoring the stupid shit you said. To the part that's kind of got some substance to it. You said Trump is not trying to expand his voter base, but then you named three cities, I'm sorry. You named 3 cities in 3 different states where he's trying to focus to grow his base in. Philly, Detroit, and Atlanta. You know, Kamala's trying to grow her base in the same places. These are all swing states. Within swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia. Doesn't he have to try to grow his base there? Is that racist to want to try to go get votes in Philly, Detroit, and Atlanta? See, folks, man, look, I got no problems calling out racism. I got no problems with it at all. I'm pretty quick at it, actually. You don't know the amount of hate mail I get from the very sensitives, the sensitive whites. But if something ain't racism, I'm not going to say something's racism unless I really feel it. Like, I have an obligation to try to be accurate to the best of my ability. There's no scientific test to prove it. It's a feeling. And just saying someone's trying to campaign in Philly, Detroit, and Atlanta doesn't mean it's racism. Kamala's doing the same thing. Hillary wouldn't take her ass to these places in any amount that was able to help her win, right? She should have took her ass to more places her damn self. But that's what you got to do. Biden went to all the black churches. You never called him racist. He was trying to show up the black vote. You never called him racist. He sat right here on the show. He sat right there. I want to rewind time. I want to go back in time on Joy. I wonder if she said that Joe Biden was racist. But he said, you ain't black. I got a feeling you didn't. I got a feeling you said he was just old. He didn't mean it that way. Probably wasn't the best choice of words. But I don't think you called him racist for it, did you? Joy Reid is very hypocritical.
Those races, what he's telling his voters, his small, his share of extreme MAGA voters.
His share of extreme MAGA voters. Why do they let her talk freely like this? If you are a Joy Reid watcher, you need help. I'm just keeping it real with you. I'm keeping it a buck with you. This woman is unhinged and she's crazy. And she get to say any old thing. And the audience that she has must, I just had to accept that there are people that like this type of nonsense. They believe it. They believe that going after black votes is racist. They would also think not trying to go after black votes is racist. So therefore, based on their criteria, man, it's racist no matter what you do. What can you do? I tend to be more, look, I sat and listened to a Donald Trump speech and I listened to a Kamala Harris speech. You know I've had to. I've listened to their some speeches. Why does Trump say the word black more often than Kamala Harris? In fact, I don't think her original sub speech didn't even have the word black in it. And I felt like she was taking black people for granted. I felt like she thought she was above having to bring up race because she doesn't want to bring up race. Why is that? She doesn't think she has to speak to the needs or concerns of black people at all. In fact, Joy Reid and liberal media came after Trump for even being concerned about black people at all. For saying something that black people have been saying. Trump does not say anything about black people that black people are not already saying. That's the thing about Trump. Trump doesn't make up trends with black people. Trump does not try to Pied Piper black people. Trump and his team listen to what black people say. And then they look into it and then they say it. That's what Trump does. That's how he got thing with the cats and the Haitians. His people looked at the internet and people were talking about that on TikTok and he joined in. I'm not saying it was a good idea, but I'm saying he didn't create that. When Trump's talking about black people's jobs, the fight for jobs and resources, that ain't even a new thing about black people in black jobs and immigrants or undocumented people or new arrivals. That's not a new thing, man. If you look this up, I've researched it because I kept wondering why everybody I talked to, even professors, was sort of downplaying it when I would ask them straight up like, yo, man, what's up with black people and the immigrants, man? Are we fighting for resources? Are black people impacted by the border situation? And then most of them would be like, well, there's really no definitive documentation on this. And I kind of believed that for the first couple of years. But Dr. Cornel West was the only one. He didn't say, I agree with you, Tim, but he said, I don't believe in open borders, Tim. I believe you got to have some type of immigration control. He said that was the most I ever got out of the liberal type professors. So what I'm saying is this thing about black people and jobs and black jobs that they gave Trump so much crap for, this wasn't a new topic for black people. Black people been talking about that. You got corny people. See, Joy Reid is from a class of black people that don't socialize with black people that would care about this stuff. See, if you don't work in the construction industry, the garment industry, the restaurant industry, the hotel, the hospitality industry, if you don't have friends that work in these types of industries, you probably don't even know shit. You know what I'm saying? You have to be, she's in a bubble. And when she hears Trump say it, it's like she thinks Trump's creating it. He ain't creating shit. He's just listening and has the guts to say it. Kamala, I listened to her stump speech. She didn't say the word black. She talked for 60 minutes. The word black did not cross her lips. I think it's more racist to ignore black people than it is to acknowledge that our issues are distinct and that we have a certain set of issues that we're dealing with in our communities that need to be addressed. Commas of I'm gonna help everybody, so I ain't gotta even mention black people. I'm just talking about everybody. That's not working for black people. It never has. Let's let Joy Reid finish up here, guys.
These blacks are stealing the election. Black Haitians are violent cannibals. Black people, Haitians are violent share of extreme MAGA voters. These blacks are stealing the election.
Who said black people are stealing the elections? I haven't heard this. He may have said Democrats are stealing the election. I don't remember him saying blacks are stealing the elections. And I don't remember him saying that Haitians are violent cannibals. You said that. The Congolese lady said the Haitians are violent cannibals. You ain't got to be violent to eat an animal. Hey, you said cannibals. Somebody ate it. If you accuse, first of all, guys, I gotta say this, and I don't know how it's gonna be taken, but I gotta say this. For as long as I've been black, I've been hearing people say that Asian restaurants cook cats. Have you ever heard that? I've heard this statement since I was a little Timmy Black. Little Timmy Black heard this statement. But if Trump or anybody else says they think Haitians are eating cats, oh no. Now, I get what you're saying because they have dark skin. But dog, the Asians have been getting that for a long time. Yeah, Asians been getting that for a long time. Just admit, anything that they say, anything Republicans say, you're going to have a problem with it. They could say, hey, y'all, it's 11:30 on the East Coast. You'll be like, why do you say East Coast? See what stuff that Trump does? He's trying to divide us by coast, by Mountain and Pacific and East and Central. He's such a dividing, evil, orange person. Basically a Hitler talking about time zones. Just another way to divide the people. These people are Looney Tunes. They crazy. They are. I'm not defending the cat statement, but I'm saying who gives a shit? And anybody dumb and crazy enough to go after Haitian people, walking down the street, minding their business, hopefully they get what they asked for, which is their ass whipped. Okay? That's what I hope. That's what I would hope. But last time I checked, they said that those bomb threats or whatever that was called in were called in for people outside of the country. Just messing with us. Because you made it a big deal. That Trump thing, nothing Trump does goes viral without the help of mainstream media. That's why he does it, dum-dum. It's like Jaguar Wright in that way. And she would not be mad that I said that either. She'd be laughing. All right, let's keep going, guys. Yep, she's a special kind of hypocrite.
Haitians are violent cannibals.
Cannibals.
Black people are the enemy. Black people are going to be responsible.
What? Black people are the enemy? Folks, I got to ask, who the hell is Joy talking to? I want to know what black people watch Joy. Who are the black people that are tuning into Joy Reid? I want to know who you are and what's wrong with you. You listen to this garbage, you let this influence you? No one is as hateful as Joy tries to paint them. It would be impossible. I've listened to Trump's speeches. He may be kissing the ass of the police to a certain extent, and that gets old and gets tiresome. But he is not hateful towards black people in his speeches. He just isn't. So. This is a drama queen who tries to scare black people. And Jen Psaki, why'd you bring her on here?
If and when I lose, and you are permitted through my language to do violence to them if necessary to stop another peaceful.
What? Who said that? Man, folks, I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say Joy Ann Reid is the most hypocritical anchor on TV today. The most hyperbolic, the most over the top, the most exaggerative, the most lying, the most deceitful, the most shamefully dishonest, the most gratuitous with lies and falsehoods, the most extreme of borderline insane takes, the most traumatic of narratives, and the most dramatic of gaslighting. Joy Reid is the king of all hypocrites on cable news media. And that is no small thing. Give it up for the biggest hypocrite, y'all. Now, she got a little bit of time. It's only October. We got some time. Maybe somebody else will pop up on the radar. But I got her in the running. Oh, she's in the running to be the most hypocritical. Now hit the like button for me, guys, if you like that content. What's up, my brother? Let me check and see what the...
Strange about Hurricane Milton. You guys know my buddy Chad Riley, right? Well, he just sent me a text, and I'm going to read it to you. I'll put it on the screen right now. So he just sent me this text saying, I have two sources that are boots on the ground, and both work for power companies. Both are telling me higher-ups are in panic mode and are downplaying Hurricane Milton. It's going to be above a Category 5 when it hits. They don't have a register for higher than that. So they're telling people Cat 5+.
It's just an incredible, incredible, incredible hurricane. It has dropped... It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific. Maximum sustained winds are 160 miles per hour, and it is just gaining strength in the Gulf of Mexico, where you can imagine the winds. I mean, the seas are just so incredibly, incredibly hot.
All these hurricanes this year, all the destruction, the 10 to 15 foot waves that are about to hit Tampa Bay. Well, it reminds me of a Bible verse. It's Luke 21:25, and it says, quote, there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and the tossing of the sea. Are we seeing the fulfillment of prophecy right before our very eyes? You turn on the news, what do you see? Catastrophic hurricanes, solar eclipses, and global turmoil. It's all there in Luke 21:25, where Jesus spoke of the signs in the sun, moon, and stars. And on the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. These aren't just poetic metaphors Jesus was using. No, they're real. They're tangible. Let's break it down. Let's start with Hurricane Milton. There's talk of it being the biggest hurricane on record in the history of mankind. I don't know how accurate that is. However, it is a Category 5 at the moment, and they are forecasting a storm surge that could reach up to 15 feet along the Gulf Coast. especially around Tampa Bay. This isn't just your average Cat 5 hurricane. We're talking about a storm surge so powerful that it could swallow whole neighborhoods in one of America's largest cities. There's more than 3 million people who live in the Tampa Bay area. If the storm surge hits like they're forecasting, the ocean will push farther inland than ever before, causing catastrophic flooding. Remember, Jesus said the sea and the waves roaring. Could this be it? Or do you think it's going to be something similar but on a global scale? But one thing's for sure. Nature's fury is about to be unleashed on a scale that we can hardly comprehend.
It is really starting to go up on those history charts now. Milton is the 5th strongest storm by pressure on record in the Atlantic. The record for that is about 20 years ago with Hurricane Wilma back in 2005 with a low pressure of 882 millibars. We'll see if it gets any lower than it is right now, but either way, Milton is already in the record books at a top 5 strong hurricane by pressure. And the wind speed, it is the 6th strongest in terms of estimated wind speed as well. Let's show you the path. This is the forecast path here, category 5 strength going across the Gulf of Mexico. Very unusual path for a hurricane to take, but that's the way the winds are blowing this time around. As we get a little bit closer to Florida here, this would be Wednesday evening, still expected to be a category 4 hurricane with winds at 145 miles per hour. This would be Thursday morning, and then it crosses right over the Florida peninsula. Now remember, when we show you the forecast cone, this is not trying to communicate the size of the storm. All it's trying to do is show you that the storm center could pass in the middle. It could pass over here. It could pass as far south as this. It could also pass as far north as this part of Florida. So anywhere along the west coast here of Florida needs to be on very high alert for a possible direct hit of the storm. As of now, we still don't know if it'll hit here, or there. Those are in the realm of uncertainty. And again, it's expected to stay a hurricane the entire way across the Florida peninsula, and then from there go due east across the Atlantic Ocean. I know that's a little unusual. It will stay south here in the Carolinas. We are not expecting it to have major impacts or any impacts on us here in the Piedmont of North Carolina. And you say, well, why is that? I might not have seen a storm take a path quite like that before. You're not wrong. It's unusual. I was only able to find a couple in the record books that have taken a path like this.
Consider the symbolism of the seas rising. This isn't just about water levels, but the turmoil it creates. We see panic, evacuations, and the inability of infrastructure to cope. This kind of chaos brings to mind the idea of perplexity among nations, as world leaders struggle to address not only natural disasters, but an increasing number of overlapping crises, from wars to economic instability. In addition to the devastation Milton brings, we must consider how the storm's intensity grew almost exponentially in such a short span. The speed of change reminds us of the times Jesus warned would come suddenly and without much warning, like a thief in the night. It's not just about the storm, but about the pattern we're seeing worldwide, a convergence of unsettling events that are shaking people out of their complacency. Many might argue that this is simply a product of a changing climate. We shouldn't ignore the spiritual dimension. The weather patterns we're witnessing could very well be part of a larger narrative that goes beyond meteorology. The rapid escalation of Hurricane Milton, the destruction it's poised to bring, and the fear it's inciting all feel like birth pangs, events that hint at something more profound unfolding. As the world becomes increasingly unpredictable, the importance of being grounded in faith grows.
Filling sandbags for what is predicted to be a monster storm. Here in the Tampa area, they are bracing for a gut punch only days away now from Mother Nature in the form of Hurricane Milton. Overnight, it strengthened to a Category 5 hurricane. Local Tampa resident Milton Cobb and his wife haven't decided if they're going to get out of Dodge just yet.
We discussed leaving, but we don't really want to, so we'll make our mind up in the next day or so.
But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has ordered mandatory evacuations for senior centers and healthcare facilities in Milton's path. And he has suspended tolls on most of the state's bridges and highways to make it easier for people to leave.
You should assume that there's going to be some form of evacuations that are going to be issued
by your local county officials.
More than 50 counties and millions of people in Florida are now under state of emergency orders. The storm is expected to weaken somewhat, but will still be a major Category 3 hurricane by the time it makes landfall in Florida, late Wednesday night or early Thursday morning. Tampa's airport will stop operations tomorrow morning.
At 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, we will be closed to all passengers so that our team can begin the process of securing our airport facilities, which takes up to 24 hours. There will be no flight operations arriving or departing after 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Meantime, the cleanup from Helene continues north to the Carolinas, where the White House spokesperson tried to debunk social media narratives that the federal disaster relief efforts have failed miserably.
President Biden and Vice President Harris continue to use every tool available to help communities devastated by Hurricane Helene. Over the weekend, President Biden ordered another 500 active duty troops to move into western North Carolina, in addition to the 1,000 troops the president previously ordered to deploy to the state. This is on top of the more than 6,100 National Guardsmen and over 7,000 federal personnel, all working together with their state and local counterparts to help people begin their road to rebuilding.
At last count, 227 people are dead from Helene. Scores of others are still missing. Electricity is still out in many areas, and things won't be getting better, especially now with Milton bearing down. Pinellas County, Florida resident Annette says she has a really bad feeling about this one.
We've been through a few storms, and you always worry, but this one, there's something about this one that I'm feeling very uneasy about.
Hey guys, this is Daniel Alexander Cannon here on Logic Before Authority. Look at this storm. What is going on with it? Watch. You see, you get that big pink flash, and then all these storms start building up over here on the side. Watch the side area here. Get that pink flash. Here we go again. Pink flash. And then you get all these storms building up. But look what happens in the center. It's like it's been hit by a bomb. They just announced it's at 990 something or 890 something millibars. It's like the strongest hurricane in history. And this pink flash happens. And then the storm goes chaotic looking. Is this transforming into something of a new level? Or is it falling apart? It's a Cat 5, the strongest ever. But why is it doing that? What does this mean? I mean, there's storms that pop up all the way around it in every direction, and it just starts looking crazy. I don't know, guys. I'm not trying to flip you out, but I mean, do you see what I see? Wouldn't you think this is a little weird? I don't know what's going on, man. Hope y'all guys checked out the Supernatural show today. We talked about this a lot, all the way up until just after that pink flash right there. But we didn't see it do this. I mean, what in the world? All right, guys, let's be diligent. Keep an eye. If you're in Florida, Kofi, follow me.